The Holy Gospel according to St. Matthew. Jesus teaches his disciples that true purity is a matter of the heart rather than outward religious observances. This teaching is tested when a woman considered to be unclean approaches him for help. Then he called to the crowd and he said to them, "Listen and understand. It is not what goes into the mouth that defiles a person, but it is what comes out of the mouth that defiles." Then the disciples approached him and said to him, "Do you know that the Pharisees took offense when they heard what you said?" And he answered, "Every plant that my heavenly Father has not planted will be uprooted. Let them alone. They are blind guides of the blind, and if one blind person guides another, both will fall into a pit." But Peter said to him, "Explain this parable to us." Then he said, "Are you also still without understanding? Do you not see that whatever goes into the mouth enters the stomach and goes into the sewer? But what comes out of the mouth proceeds from the heart, and this is what defiles. For out of the heart come evil intentions, murder, adultery, fornication, theft, false witness, slander. These are what defile a person, but to eat with unwashed hands does not defile." Jesus left that place and went away to the district of Tyre and Sidon. Just then, a Canaanite woman from that region came out and started shouting, "Have mercy on me, Lord, Son of David. My daughter is tormented by a demon." But he did not answer her at all. And his disciples came and urged him, saying, "Send her away, for she keeps shouting after us." He answered, "I was sent only to the lost sheep of the house of Israel." But she came and knelt before him, saying, "Lord, help me." He answered, "It is not fair to take the children's food and throw it to the dogs." She said, "Yes, Lord, yet even the dogs eat the crumbs that fall from their master's table." Then Jesus answered her, "Woman, great is your faith. Let it be done for you as you wish." And her daughter was healed instantly. The Gospel of the Lord.
Praise to you, Lord Christ.
Good morning. Greetings to you from the Ministry of Lutheran Services in Iowa. My name is Jason Lee, and I have the honor of serving as our Vice President of Philanthropy and Church Relations, and I'm based out of our Beloit Residential Treatment Center in Ames. So glad to be with you this morning for worship, and grateful for your partnership in the gospel and our shared ministry as an extension of your church and the ELCA congregations in Iowa. We're so grateful to be the hands and feet of Jesus as an extension of what you're doing. I'm also honored to share a sermon message with you on today's gospel text we just read together in Matthew 15. This really is an incredibly rich and meaningful text that challenges how we see Jesus, how we see ourselves, and how we see other people, especially the outsiders who are very different from us. And there's a central message that all are welcome at the table and presence of Jesus when we come with humility and genuine faith. Before I make some key observations in this passage, I'd like to ask you a few rhetorical questions for you to consider and ponder. When did you last cry out to Jesus, and why? Did you feel like you deserved his help? And thirdly, how do you respond when you don't hear back from God or get a confusing answer in response to your prayers for help? Keep these questions in mind as we explore this story together. In the first part of today's text, in verses 10 through 20, Jesus had just addressed a crowd on the topic of religious practices and inward motives, specifically regarding food and words that come out of the mouth. And the religious teachers of the day, or the Pharisees, took offense at Jesus' teachings, as they often did. But Jesus was making a point that the outward religious practices of the Jews were less important than the inward motives and faith inside the heart. Then we go on to read that Jesus left that place, that crowd of people, and headed up to Tyre and Sidon, away from Jewish land into Gentile territory, or non-Jewish territory. He was possibly looking to get away specifically from the Pharisees, who didn't agree with his teaching, Maybe he was just trying to get away to pray, as he often did. However, instead of getting away to get some rest and maybe some respite, it's apparent that news traveled very fast to the people there that Jesus had supernatural power and also had mercy to show. So in verse 22, we read that the Canaanite woman, who was Greek from that region, came out and started shouting at Jesus. I'm not really sure why she started shouting, but maybe a crowd had already gathered. So she had to try to get his attention and the disciples' attention by shouting at the top of her lungs. It seems that she was also in desperation and begging because her daughter was in trouble, tormented by a demon. She was clearly calling out to Jesus and needed his help and attention. What she said first is just incredible and so full of meaning. I'm going to read it. "Have mercy on me, Lord, Son of David. My daughter is tormented by a demon." Wow. What a statement. She started out, "Have mercy on me." She was begging. She was pleading for the mercy of Jesus in utter humility. "Lord." She recognized and named Jesus as Lord or Master. Again, an incredibly humble position this woman was taking. "Son of David," a prophetic statement. And she didn't care about religious boundaries. She was a Greek, and Jesus was a Jewish teacher or rabbi. I can just picture this scene and almost hear her humble plea for help in the presence of Jesus himself. This is really an amazing moment and interaction taking place that was completely countercultural. A Gentile woman, they were viewed as complete outsiders to the Jewish people, especially to the most religious people or the teachers, these Pharisees, who viewed themselves as superior and were very outward focused on who they identified with and interacted with. Let's just say that this woman was boldly and humbly seeking a supernatural encounter with Jesus out of genuine faith. Okay, based on this plea for help, how do you think Jesus would respond to this woman? What Jesus does and says next, along with the disciples' response, is actually pretty shocking, to be honest. I really would have expected Jesus immediately to show mercy on this woman. But instead, Jesus decided not to answer her. He was quiet. His first response was, he didn't say anything. And actually what the disciples did is they were urging Jesus to send her away. And rather than just sending her away, Jesus, in his calm nature, started a dialogue with her, stating, "I was sent only to the lost sheep of Israel," or the Jewish people. It seems that he was making a very exclusive statement, knowing that she was not a Jew and she was not welcome. A bit surprising, don't you think? Would you have been offended by this statement from Jesus? I think I would have been. But this woman, instead of turning away from Jesus, what does she do? She humbled herself even more, stooping down, literally, physically, stooping down at the feet of Jesus, simply saying, "Lord, help me." Wow. Wow. This is an amazing, simple plea at the feet of Jesus. I'll repeat it again. "Lord, help me." Now, this would surely be enough for Jesus to show mercy to this woman, right? Not exactly in this case. Not yet. Instead, Jesus responds with what could be perceived as another derogatory remark, actually. He answered, "It is not fair to take the children's bread or children's food and throw it to the dogs." Yikes. That hurts. A dog, really? Jesus just called me a dog? Eating the crumbs under the table? Wow. Again, not what I expected Jesus to say at all. Now look at this woman's incredible and humble, faith-filled response. Does she stop at that? No. She says, "Yes, Lord. Yet even the dogs eat the crumbs that fall from their master's table." Oh my goodness. This woman is an incredible example of humility and persistence as she puts aside her pride and begs Jesus, her Lord, for help, believing in faith that he was the only hope for her and her child. She was focused on Jesus and not on herself, and she would not let her position or societal barriers keep her from the master's table or the master's feet. She demonstrated an incredible yet simple and pure faith in Jesus, which is exactly what he was looking for. Jesus made this clear now when he answered her final plea, saying, "Woman, great is your faith." Woman, great is your faith. And then her daughter was healed instantly, right on the spot. Jesus got to the heart of this very tense interaction and dialogue, which was a test of faith rather than outward appearance and the focus of the healing request of her daughter. Although this interaction and dialogue is both incredible and somewhat surprising or shocking, it's very clear that Jesus was much more concerned about the inner condition of this woman's heart and faith rather than the outward circumstances of her works. You see, this story shows a stark contrast compared to the focus of the Pharisees. They cared most about their religious practices and outward observances rather than inward faith. And they also despised the Gentiles, and Jesus turned this upside down, who welcomed all who would come to him by faith. As we reflect on this encounter between Jesus and the Canaanite woman, one introspective question could be, how do we come to Jesus? How do I come to Jesus? Do we come to him thinking that we deserve his help in our time of need because of our righteousness or our religious works like the Pharisees? Or do we come as beggars in equal standing with outsiders, putting our faith in Jesus as the only one who is truly righteous? I'm reminded of Martin Luther's quote near the end of his life on his deathbed stating, "We are beggars, this is true," as he identified himself as a beggar and in need of God at all times. Another key reflection on this story is all are welcome at the table of Jesus, no matter our status, our appearance, our religious or ethnic background, or any other potential human barrier. Jesus broke down all those barriers. He broke down the artificial barriers that existed, and specifically in this case, welcomed a woman who was a Gentile because of her great faith. We are all to come by faith to Jesus. We are not to view ourselves more highly than we ought, as we all have equal standing before Jesus and the cross. In my leadership role with LSI, I have the honor of serving alongside a group of compassionate, dedicated employees, over 1,000 of them, the people who are working on the front lines day in and day out along some of the most vulnerable, quote-unquote, outsiders in Iowa, to be a source of compassion and love in some of their darkest hours. Our mission is responding to the love of Jesus Christ through compassionate service. And I can tell you that we take this mission and our responsibility very seriously. This mission guides us to view ourselves as equal beggars with those we serve who are welcome at the table of Jesus each and every day. LSI serves over 10,000 individuals in Iowa every year. This includes children facing abuse and neglect, young parents who need extra support, individuals with disabilities, former refugees fleeing persecution and violence, and many more neighbors across the state of Iowa. I'm going to tell you a little bit more about one of our services, but I would like to mention that we will be opening an office in Cedar Rapids, as Pastor Dennis referenced earlier, this year. It's happening as we speak. So that mission extension is going to happen right here to your neighbors in Cedar Rapids, and we're very excited about that. So in a few minutes, you'll see a video that will highlight our mission in action and witness the impact we are collectively having to show compassion and love to our neighbors. But before we do that, I'd like to just take a moment to say thank you. This congregation has been very generous, a great partner over many, many years, and continues to be currently, and we're grateful. I mentioned earlier that I'm based out of our Beloit campus in Ames. This campus houses one of our two 24/7 residential treatment centers in the state of Iowa for children with mental and behavioral health needs, as well as group foster care that don't have another place to go. So back in 2007, we completed a capital campaign for a new residential center called the Anna J. Hull Building, and this congregation contributed over $17,000 to help support this new facility in Ames. So we're so thankful to God for your support of this project, and I want to share a few pictures from our Beloit campus now 10 years later. So this building here that you can see is our Anna J. Hull Building. So prior to this, there was a, I would say, very aged two-story building that wasn't meeting our children's needs. And so this facility is more state-of-the-art, all one level. It has 4 communities, houses about up to 40 children on a daily basis. Those children are coming to us from all over the state of Iowa. They would stay for anywhere from 3 to 6 months, sometimes longer if their needs are greater. And so our staff delivers a lot of service out of this new facility, and you were a part of that. So you should be giving thanks to God as well for how you, even though you don't get to see this work, you're really a part of it and with those children every day. The next photo is of a family. We are really family focused in our treatment. So we're not just trying to treat the child who comes to us, say, from Sioux City or from Cedar Rapids or from Burlington or wherever, and then just focus on that child. We have to, by virtue of nature of them being with us 24/7, but we really are intentional about engaging the whole family, because ultimately the goal is not for the children to come and stay for too long. They are to return home and be successful in the family. And so this photo shows a mom and 2 of her boys. And then on the right, this is a picture of a young boy who was graduating. That was his last day before he was going to go home and reunite with his family. And so he's holding up a little certificate of graduation, which is really neat to see the smile on his face. The next photo is of Paul holding a prize zucchini. So we have a partnership with Bethesda Lutheran Church, our next door neighbor in Ames, at this particular campus, and it's a Beloit learning garden. And so it's a pretty good plot of land there that the kids partner up with volunteers from Bethesda and others in the community to learn how to garden. And also, it's just a great opportunity for them to kind of see some things come to fruition like that. It's beautiful to see that picture on his face, or that smile on his face. So we can go to the next one. This photo is of a boy, 11-year-old boy named Scott. Before he came to Beloit in Ames, he had been at actually several other residential treatment centers in the state of Iowa, and actually was hospitalized for many months, not because of a physical injury necessarily, but because of his mental health condition. There is a gap in the number of beds available for kids in the state of Iowa, but anyhow, Scott's going to be able to share a little bit of his story with you in the video that we see here shortly, but he was certainly full of anger, a bit lost, really having difficulty in the home, aggressing others on a regular basis, and I mean, you don't know how much that smile is worth seeing on his face. So I just want to say again, we greatly appreciate this congregation's support and partnership with LSI. There is a bulletin insert here, looks like this, that you can look at and learn more. And also, I would say, put this on your fridge maybe as a reminder to pray for the children, the families, the refugees, others that we're serving on a daily basis. Our staff have really difficult jobs, but it's also fun and great. So this is a great opportunity to pray for our staff and those that we're serving. So now we'll turn our attention to the video and close out and see how some of the outsiders that God is serving through our ministry. Thank you.
I was yelling and screaming and cussing, and I was at Mercy Hospital for 6 months. It's usually supposed to be 3 to 5 days.
The kids who come into residential treatment, they're extremely lost. They are hurt, they are filled with pain and shame and fear. They don't know what's going on or where to go. And that's where we catch them. You know, there's those glimpses, those moments when we start seeing these children, you know, come out of their pain, and they're just kids. And then sometimes we forget that.
I'm originally from Egypt. When I came here, it was totally a new place for me.
They come from a big support network back home and then come here and don't know anyone and have to learn, you know, what the culture is like, the language.
At the beginning, I was so nervous and stressed, and I didn't feel good, like so confused and not sleeping well because I felt that I'm a bad parent.
I didn't live in Burundi, even I was born there. There was a war, we have to run away.
There's huge limitations with, I mean, people don't know English, that just like really makes things hard. There's a lot of steps that people need assistance with, especially when they're new.
We get trainings from LCR. We are under the name of Global Greens. It is a group of farmers.
I was in a very severe domestic violence situation where I had been held hostage for nearly 10 days. I was also using methamphetamines at the time. I wasn't really alive. I was just existing and had no value, no self-worth, no ambition, no get up and go. And then I got involved with LSI, and they would get me out in the community. At first, it was very tough to get me to go anywhere. It's like, okay, we're gonna go have a cup of coffee and that's it. And then I'm going back. And I got more used to being out in the community, not isolating so much. I started going shopping. The light came on. Jamie is compassionate, she's flexible, she's understanding. Jamie listens. Jamie's helped me the most by just showing up.
She was a 17-year-old girl who had come from Guatemala, and she was pregnant. And throughout her journey here, she was, sexually assaulted. She was physically hurt. She spent 20 days walking and traveling to get here, and she didn't have anything. I was able to connect her with parenting classes in her community. I was able to connect her with legal resources in the community for representation that she would need. And then I think the most special part was when she asked me to be a part of her child's birth. I'm really happy to say that we were able to discharge her from our program successfully. And she is now in school. She has a beautiful, healthy baby boy.
Some of the reasons that I feel like I'm different now from when I got angry before is because I use my coping skills and I don't actually escalate anymore like I did. Like this, now I'm like, I clench my fist and then I'm like, and I let it all go.
When I get to see a child like Scott, come through Beloit and really work on his issues and be able to go back home, it fills me with a tremendous amount of joy. The biggest thing that I hope kids get to take home from Beloit and get to leave Beloit knowing is that they're loved, they're valued, they're cherished.
I feel so calm now. I felt that I'm on the right track of parenting.
My goal is to have my own land. I want to be supervisor of myself.
I feel like a miracle has happened in my life, literally. I no longer use drugs. I no longer have to turn to suicide as an answer. I feel free.
I just really believe in the mission of what we're doing at LSI is to respond to the love of Jesus Christ and through compassionate service, really impacting some of the most vulnerable neighbors among us.
We serve people who have significant challenges and barriers in their lives. We have, under one broad umbrella here, a tremendous range of services which enable us to have a collective, powerful impact all over the state.
I'm very glad I get to be a part of the legacy that's LSI. We've been around for over 150 years, and we work with thousands upon thousands of people, and that just has such a tremendous ripple effect throughout the entire state of Iowa. It's just amazing.
Rise, please.